Good morning, students. Today, the lesson is The Little Girl. In this lesson, you are going to know about the story of a little girl, Kezia. This lesson is written by Catherine Mansfield. That little girl is very innocent, is very attached to her father as well as mother, but she somewhat is very afraid of her father. So the story narrates the life of children who are very attached to their parents, but somewhere in their mind they are afraid as well. So let us see the theme of the story. The story unfolds the relationship between children and their parents. The author, Catherine Mansfield, wants to tell us that children are immensely attached with their parents, and parents too, despite being strict, have heart full of love, affection, and compassion for their children. There is no doubt about it. Parents love their children very much. They are very attached. Children are also attached to their parents. But sometimes children misunderstand their parents. They don't judge their parents in the right way or in the right manner. So this is beautiful understanding, beautiful circumstance you are going to witness in this story. And this story is very relevant to the life of each and every child. It is very relevant to you children. You will really enjoy this story. After reading the story, after understanding each and every reference, you'll come to draw the message which is already given to you. You can draw your own message as well. The message is to have a healthy and beautiful relation. Both parent and child should interact regularly, know each other's desire, expectation, strength and weaknesses, and behave accordingly. It's very important to have a very strong bond between the parent and the child. That strong bond will happen only when both of the people will understand each other in all aspects. Okay? You feel that this story tells the feeling of you people, the feeling of yours in everyday life. You witness the scolding of your mother or father, even the pampering of your parents. And sometimes you are unable to judge your parents. So the story very nicely explains what is the feeling of a child towards his parents. Now, next slide is about the author. Catherine Mansfield, at a very early age, reached the height of success. She was a wonderful writer. So, just see what is written here about the author. Kathleen Mansfield Murray was a prominent New Zealand modernist short story writer and poet. Born on 14 October 1888 and brought up in colonial New Zealand, she wrote under the pen name of Catherine Mansfield. Her actual name is Kathleen Mansfield, but she wrote her composition in the name of Catherine Mansfield. At the age of 19, she left New Zealand and settled in England, where she became a friend of great writers such as D. H. Lawrence and Virginia Woolf. Mansfield was diagnosed with extrapulmonary tuberculosis, which claimed her life at the age of 34. She died at a very early age. It was the 34 years of age, and she died on 9 January 1923. Her popular short stories are Miss Brill, The Doll's House, Bliss, A Cup of Tea, etc. You can even explore her other compositions as well. These are some famous stories written by Catherine Mansfield. So children, try to write down about the author, the theme, the message, which is very important to understand the story very well. Okay. Now next I am coming to the chapter. And here we have the lesson, The Little Girl. I've already told you what is the story about. It is about a little girl, a small girl, whose name is Kezia. Before you read, do you feel you know your parents better now than when you were much younger? You all are in standard 9 now. Okay? And you know your parents, or you can judge your parents at this age in a better way. You have many grievances from your parents. You have many expectations from your parents, right? How do you deal with your parents in regard to your expectations, your desires, your love and affection? In everyday life, you all come across all such things, okay? And sometimes you are unable to judge your parents in the right way. This is what happened with Kezia. So with age, we can or we are able to judge our elders, especially our parents. Sometimes maybe children are wrong. Okay? So this is the story of Kezia, who also misunderstood her father. Perhaps you now understand the reasons for some of their actions that used to upset you earlier. This story about a little girl whose feelings for her father change from fear to understanding will probably find an echo in every home. Very relevant feeling and behavior. And this is the story of each and every home. It is rightly said. We all have come across such circumstances. We all have come across such misunderstanding, and at a very small age, or when the child is very small, he is very afraid of his parents. This is very common and natural behavior of a child. So let us start the story. To the little girl, he was a figure to be feared and avoided. Every morning before going to work, he came into her room and gave her a casual kiss, to which she responded with, "Goodbye, father." For Kezia, her father was a person to be afraid of. That's what the opening line here tells. That to the little girl, he was a figure to be feared and avoided. Since she was afraid of her father, she did not like to spend time with him. She always wanted that her father should not stay for a long time in the house. So every morning before going to work, he came into her room and gave her a casual kiss. That does not mean father did not love her. Before going to office, he used to come to her room and gave her a kiss. That showed, that shows he loves her immensely. And she also replied fondly. What she says? Goodbye, father. This is also very usual. And oh, there was a glad sense of relief when she heard the noise of the carriage growing fainter and fainter down the long road. And she also kept listening to the sound of sound of his carriage moving ahead and ahead towards his office. And she had a feeling of relaxation. In the evening, when he came home, she stood near the staircase and heard his loud voice in the hall. When he returned in the evening, she stood near the staircase and she listened to his loud voice. What he said, or what he used to say, bring my tea into the drawing room. Hasn't the paper come yet? He ordered to bring the tea for himself, and that too in the drawing room. And he also asked about the newspaper. Mother, go and see if my paper's out there and bring me my slippers. Now, mother is Kejia's mother. So, father called her mother in the name of Kezia. Mother, you go and bring my papers and also my slippers. Kezia, Kezia, mother would call to her. If you are a good girl, you could come down and take off father's boot. Kezia, if you are a good girl, you can come down and take off father's boots. And that order is transferred to Kezia. Father told Kejia's mother to bring all these things, and mother immediately called her. Kezia, you come down and remove your father's shoes. Slowly the girl would slip down the stairs, more slowly still across the hall and push open the drawing room door. She was very obedient. She would come down in a very quiet manner the stairs and she slowly reached the hall and opened the door. By that time he had his spectacles on and looked at her over them in a way that was terrifying to the little girl. By the time when she reached there, her father looked at her in a very terrifying manner. Means his look was terrifying. In the real sense, he was a very nice person, but his look was terrifying. Well, Kezia, help up and pull off these boots and take them outside. Have you been a good girl today? Father told her. Kezia, you took off my shoes, keep them at the right place, because you are a good girl. See the reply of Kezia. She was so afraid, always afraid. I don't know, father. You don't know? She said very hesitantly. She started stammering. She didn't know whether she was a good girl or not. Father said, you don't know? If you stutter like that, mother will have to take you to the doctor. The father always dealt with her strictly. What he said, if you stutter like that, you will be sent to the doctor. Mother would take you to the doctor. She never stuttered with other people, had quite given it up, but only with father. She never stuttered with any other person except with her father. only with her father. Why? What was the reason? The reason was she was very frightened. She was very afraid of her father. Because then she was trying so hard to say the words properly, and because of being so afraid, she tried and never spoke fluently. What's the matter? What are you looking so wretched about? Again she was asked. What are you looking about? Mother, I wish you taught this child not to appear on the brink of suicide. Now this line or this statement you see is highlighted here. What he said very sternly, father said to Kejia's mother that I know, I wish or I expect that you have not brought up your child in this manner that she would about to commit suicide. Here, suicide, you cannot take it as she was going to ruin her life. That is not the meaning here. The meaning is that you have brought your child to such a state that she would not stare at me. She would not look arrogant. She would not behave in such a rude manner. This is the meaning. So he asked Vijaya's mother that you have not brought your child to that level where she could stare at me or look at me in a stern manner. Here, the father was unable to judge the innocence of his Vijaya. It is very clear. Here, Keja carried my teacup back to the table carefully. He was so big, his hands and his neck, especially his mouth, when he yawned. Keja's father was a very huge person, tall and stout. That was also the reason of frightfulness. That was also the reason for Kezia to be away from her father. His hands were very big, his neck, especially his mouth, was also very big. Thinking about him alone was like thinking about a giant. Very important line. Thinking about Kejia's father means thinking about a giant. Means he had a giant personality. It was very huge. On Sunday afternoons, grandmother sent her down to the drawing room to have a nice talk with father and mother. Every Sunday, grandmother used to send her to the drawing room to have a talk with her father and mother so that she should be comfortable with them. But the little girl always found mother reading and father stretched out on the sofa, his handkerchief on his face, his feet on one of the best cushions, sleeping soundly and snoring. But what was the scene of the drawing room? You can very well understand through this picture. Whenever she reached the drawing room, what did she find? That father was lying down on the sofa. Mother was busy reading newspaper. Means nobody cared for her. Nobody cared for her arrival even. So she felt very alone. This was also the reason that she was not friendly with her parents. She was not very comfortable with her parents because parents did not give time to her. She sat down on a stool, gravely watched him until he woke and stretched and asked the time, then looked at her. And throughout the time she was sitting on a stool, seriously watching her father until he woke up. As soon as he woke up, He looked at her and what he said, you see, "Don't stare so, Lydia. You look like a little brown owl. Lydia, you don't stare like this." Although she was not staring, she was simply sitting. In this manner, in this look, you appear to be a brown owl. What a remark! This remark is not good for a small child. The child is hurt. If the child is called, "You are a dog, you are a cat, you are an owl," I don't think this is the right way to call any child at home. That's why she did not like her father. One day, when she was kept indoors with a cold, her grandmother told her that father's birthday was next week and suggested she should make him a pincushion for a gift out of a beautiful piece of yellow silk. One day, what happened? Her grandmother suggested that your father's birthday is round the corner, is coming, so it's very close. So why don't you prepare a gift for your father? And she also helped her to select the gift. She said that you try to make a pin cushion for him. Kezia liked this idea. Hmm. And she started preparing. See what she did and what happened. It was really a very tragic scene for her. Laboriously, with a double cotton, the little girl stitched three sides, but what to fill it with? That was the question. The grandmother was out in the garden and she wandered into mother's bedroom to look for scraps. She started preparing the cushion. She put too much effort to collect the things. Hmm. She made the cushion. She stitched all the three sides of it, and now in that small bag, after stitching, something should be filled up, so that it should come into the form of a cushion. It should become a cushion. So next trouble was for her to what to fill in or fill it with, what to fill inside. For the help, she looked for her grandmother who was in the garden. Her mother was also not there. So she went to her mother's bedroom to look for scraps. See the child's attitude. She did not like to put anything inside that double cotton. She was looking for scraps. Scraps means waste things which were not needed. On the bed table, she discovered a great many sheets of fine paper, gathered them up, tore them into tiny pieces, and stuffed her face, then sewed up the fourth side. So, what did she find on the bed table? Some sheets of fine paper. She thought that these sheets were not needed. So, she collected those sheets, tore them into small pieces, and then filled those small pieces of the sheets into that double cotton and stitched the fourth side of that cushion. Now the cushion was ready. She was very happy that she had made something for her father. That night there was a hue and cry in the house. Children, here word meanings are given. So you go through those word meanings, learn them properly, and try to use them in your sentences, in your speech, in your daily language. Okay, write down all these word meanings in your notebook. That night, what happened? There was very much hue and cry in the room, in the house. Means they were angered. His father was very angry and he was shouting. Father's great speech for the port authority had been lost. Rooms were searched, servants' question, finally mother came into Tejia's room. So those sheets which she tore into pieces and filled her case were the sheets of her father's speech. And father was searching. He called the servants, he asked them, and it was not found. Finally, mother came into Tejia's room. Tejia, I suppose you didn't see some papers on a table in our room. Oh yes, she said. I tore them up for my surprise. Very innocently, she said. Yes, Mama, I saw those papers, but I tore them into pieces for some surprise. What? Screamed mother. Come straight down to the dining room this instant. Mother also became angry. What? You did. Now you come down to the dining room just now. You see, what is the reaction of her mother? She was also not supporting her. She never hid her mistakes or her mistakes from her father. She was always in a mood to punish this little child. She never consoled her. Yes, sometimes it happens. Children do some wrong thing. They, mm, you can say they, what they do. They speak lies. Ah, they hear things. They remove the things from the right place. So such mistakes are done by children. But mother used to support the child, not always, sometimes. So here, mother called her down, and she was dragged down to where father was pacing to and fro. Note down this, to and fro means from one side to other side. Hmm. What was the father doing? He was moving from one side to the other side in the dining room, and this little child was brought down in a in the form of dragging down, hands behind his back. Well, he said sharply. Mother explained. He stopped and stared at the child. Mother explained the whole story. What happened to those sheets? Who took those sheets? And where had they gone? She explained everything. Her father looked at her. Did you do that? No, she whispered. Mother, go up to her room and fetch down the damn thing. See that the child's put to bed this instant. What he ordered? He said to her mother, you go and bring down that thing which she had made and put this child to the bed. Crying too much to explain, she lay in the shadowed room, watching the evening light make a sad little pattern on the floor. Tejia was crying bitterly in that dark room. It was not completely dark, but it was a little dark room where the evening light was penetrating from the ventilation and making certain little pattern on the floor. Then father came into the room with a ruler in his hand. Father came to her room with a ruler in his hand. I am going to beat you for this, he said. Oh no, no, she screamed, hiding under the bedclothes. She hid herself under the bedclothes. He pulled them aside. Sit up, he ordered, and hold out your hands. Just to imagine the scene. She was asked to sit up and then pulled out her hands. She did that. You must be taught once and for all not to touch what does not belong to you. You have been told that you should not touch those things which did not belong to you. But it was for your birthday, she said very slowly. Papa, it was for your birthday. Down came the ruler on her little pink palms. Father did not pay heed to her statement. He never listened to her. What he did? He beat her badly. Hours later, when grandmother had wrapped her in a shawl and brought her in a rocking chair, the child clung to her soft body. After some hours, her grandmother came, wrapped her in a shawl, and brought her to the rocking chair, where she was rocking. At that time, she clung to her soft body, means she embraced her grandmother. What did God make fathers for? She sobbed. She had a question. What did God make fathers for? What is the purpose of making fathers? Why God has made fathers? What is the purpose of a father? Because she had a very bad image of her father. She so she thought that fathers are like that. They are very huge people. They are very strict. They are rude. They behaved in a very arrogant manner. These all experiences she had. That's why she asked her grandmother, what did God make fathers for? Here's a clean hanky, darling. Blow your nose. Go to sleep. Pet. You will forget all about it in the morning. Grandmother did not reply. She diverted her attention. She told her, you clean your nose and go to sleep. You will forget all these things in the morning. I tried to explain to father, but he was too upset to listen tonight. She said that she wanted to explain to father, but he never listened. He was very upset. But the child never forgot. This is very obvious. A child never forgets the things or the circumstances which he has come across in his childhood. This is very, very natural. And this child also had never forgotten. Next time she saw him, she quickly put both hands behind her back and a red color flew into her cheeks. She was very afraid, and that frightfulness was getting more and more. Next time, whenever she had the glimpse of her father, she used to put her hands behind and her face used to become red because of because of frightfulness. She feels she felt that her father was a scary man. The McDonalds lived next door. They had 5 children. Looking through a gap in the fence, the little girl saw them playing tag in the evening. In this stanza, there is a description of Adria's neighbor. There was a family, McDonald's. This McDonald's is not that from where you get pizza or burger. This is the name of the family, the McDonald's. They lived next door, and in that family there were 5 children. Adria was enjoying their talk, their play through a gap in the fence. What she found? That they were playing tag in the evening. Tag is a kind of game where children catch one another. So they were playing very nicely. And the father was also the part of the game. The father with the baby Mao on his shoulders Two little girls hanging onto his coat pockets ran round and round the flower beds, shaking with laughter. You can understand this through this picture. Um, the father was playing with his five children, keeping one child on his shoulder, two children, those girls, holding his coat pockets. Once she saw the boys turn the hose on him and he tried to catch them, laughing all the time. And two boys, two of his sons, were turning the hose. Hose is a very huge, very big pipe, water pipe. Hose on him, and he tried to catch them, laughing all the time. So this kind of fun was going on next to her house. Then it was she decided there were different sorts of fathers. What was the image of father in the beginning? She had that father was a very rude person. But when she witnessed that small fun and game in the next door neighbor, she understood that fathers are of different types. There are different types of fathers. So her idea changed here. Suddenly one day, mother became ill and she and grandmother went to hospital. One day, mother and grandmother both went to hospital. The little girl was left alone in the house with Alice, the cook. That was all right in the daytime. See this picture where the McDonald's were playing with his five children, and Kedia was watching them, and she had a different idea, a different image of a father. She felt that fathers are not very rude people. There are different types of fathers. So she compared her father to the McDonald's. But while Alice was putting her to bed, she grew suddenly afraid. So when her mother was ill and she was sent to the hospital along with the grandmother, Kedia was all alone at home, and there was her cook who looked after her. The cook was Alice, and she was putting her to bed. She grew suddenly afraid. Night, when she was brought to the bed, she was very much frightened. What will I do if I have a nightmare? She had a question. If she had a bad dream, who would support her? She asked. I often have nightmares and then Granny takes me into her bed. I can't stay in the dark. It all gets whispery. So she said to herself, who would look after her when she had bad dreams? That day, Granny was also not there, and she could not stay in the dark room. She told all these. She told all this to Alice. Alice said, you just go to sleep, child, pulling off her socks, and don't you scream and wake your poor pa. And she also alerted her, don't scream and wake up your father. You just sleep. But the same old nightmare came. She tried to sleep, but she had a very bad dream. What was the dream? The butcher with a knife and a rope, who came nearer and nearer, smiling that dreadful smile, while she could not move, could only stand still, crying out, Grandma, Grandma. She had that bad dream that a butcher was there with a knife and a rope, and he was very coming very close to her. He was looking very dreadful, and he was smiling, and she was unable to move. She had no. She was very afraid. She was very scared, and she cried out, "Grandma, Grandma!" She woke shivering to see father beside her bed, a candle in his hand. She woke up, trembling, and she saw that her father was beside her bed, holding a candle in his hand. What's the matter? He asked, or he said. Father asked her, what's the matter? Oh, a butcher, a knife. I want Granny. He blew out the candle, bent down, and caught up the child in his arms, carrying her along the passage to his big bedroom. As soon as he found that Kedia was very frightened, what he did? He blew out the candle and took Kedia in his arms, carried her to his bedroom. A newspaper was on the bed. He put away the paper, then carefully tucked up the child. He brought her to his bed, removed the newspaper which was kept on the bed, and then embraced the child, embraced Kedia. He lay down beside her. He put Kedia on the bed and he lay down beside her, half asleep still with the Buddhist smile all about her it seemed. She was not in proper sleep, she was half asleep. It appeared as if she was she had that Buddha's dream again. She crept close to him, snuggled her head under his arm, held tightly to his shirt. She came very close to her father, embraced him. She moved into his warm position and put her head under his arm and held tightly to his shirt. She clutched his shirt very tightly. Then the dark did not matter. She lay still. At that time, she felt that there was somebody to take care of him. Sorry, take care of her. And the darkness of the room did not matter. She was not shivering now. She lay still. Here, rub your feet against my legs and get them warm, said father. Father said that you rub your feet against my legs. You will get the warmth. So, this in this situation, she felt the warmth of love, the warmth of compassion of her father. Tired out, he slept before the little girl. A funny feeling came over her. Poor father, not so big after all, and with no one to look after him. She was very much tired. Father was also very much tired, so he slept completely. At that moment, Kezia had a very funny feeling. What was that? That father not so big after all, and with no one to look after him. There was nobody to take care of her father. So in this situation, father was not so big, he was not so huge. He was harder than grandmother, but it was a nice hardness. Remember this line. What she felt that her father was strict, he was more strict than her grandmother. But it was a nice hardness, which she had never expected she had experienced here. What she never expected that her father did not love her. Her father had no affection, which she experienced then when her father brought and embraced her in the bed. Hmm. She liked that compassion and kindness and love, and she said that this is a nice hardness. And every day he had to work and was too tired to be a Mr. McDonald. And see the innocence of the child, how she judged her father. She was pity on her father. What she said? Every day my father worked so hard. He was very tired. And how could he be Mr. MacDonald, means her neighbor? She had torn up all his beautiful writing. She stood suddenly and sighed. She had a guilty feeling at that moment also that she had damaged all those sheets, all those writing of her father. Mm. So that is very obvious for her father to become angry. What's the matter? Asked her father. Another dream. All this she was murmuring. So her father asked, again you have another dream? Oh, said the little girl, my head's on your heart. I can hear it going. She said, my head is on your heart and I'm just beside you, Papa, and I can hear your heartbeats. What a big heart you have got, Father dear. What she said? You have got a big heart. It has two meanings here, children. That she could listen to the heartbeat of her father because she was very close to him at that moment. And next meaning is that her father was a large-hearted man. Her father was a kind man. Her father loved her very much. He looked very strict, very stern, very rude, but he loved her very much. This is the realization of Lydia in the end. When she was alone with her father, she experienced it that her father cared for her, her father loved her very much, her father mm, brought her with himself, and she spent the whole night with her father, which never happened in her life. So her idea completely changed. The image of her father, which she had in the beginning, was completely changed in the end. So this is a big realization, and this is very important. So children, you also never misjudge your parents. Their small strictness may hurt you, but that does not mean they don't love you. Understood? Go through the word meanings, learn them, write in your notebooks, and go through the video again and again to understand the whole lesson properly. Also, pay attention to the highlighted statements or sentences. Okay, thank you.